Have you ever been in a meeting and everyone around you is talking using these acronyms, referencing systems, going back and forth between them, and you just can't keep up? And your immediate thought is, why am I even in this room? So you kind of just sit there, you nod, pretend you understand, and you kind of just stay quiet. I know I've been there. Most people think they feel this way because they're less capable or there's something wrong with how they think. But that's usually not true. People come from completely different backgrounds. There may be times where some people grew up around this kind of work. Some people may have years of experience in the company, so on and so forth. You just never know. Some people might have more exposure to the systems and the language from a long time ago. The more exposure that you have, the more confidence overall you're going to feel about the subject matter. Early in my career, I thought I had to compensate for this by just working harder, putting in more time, giving up more of my energy just to catch up. That can work, but most of the time, a lot of the times, it can lead to burnout, which happened to me. Most people will respond by reinforcing negative thoughts like, I'm not smart enough for this. But that actually makes it worse because you could actually start believing it. And for me, what didn't help was not asking for help when I needed it the most. What changed everything for me was confidence isn't about knowing everything. Confidence is having peace with what you do know and being aware and comfortable with what you don't know. Being okay with asking for help. The reality is that no one person knows everything. And say by some chance they do. They don't have the time or the energy to do everything alone. It's just not possible. It almost always comes down to a team. So the shift was stop trying to prove you know everything and start focusing on learning what actually matters. So the first shift, I had to learn to ask better questions. The fastest way to close the gap that you perceive is to ask these questions. So sometimes what holds people back from asking is fear of being judged, fear of looking disqualified. But a better way to approach this is ask questions that show that you do understand. When you ask your question, clearly point out the section where you're stuck, like where the disconnect starts. That way, you're not asking blindly, you're showing how you're thinking, your thought process. Shift two, normalize not knowing. Confident people say, I don't know, but I can find out, I can figure it out, and get back to you. That's it. I'm sure you've heard people that you respect say that. They don't try and sound smarter than they are because giving a wrong answer just to save face, it usually makes things worse. Being honest is actually what builds trust over time. That brings us to shift three. Confidence builds over time, and you can actually track it. You can start by identifying a few things you feel insecure about. Then every day, just do one small thing to improve that area. So, one example, say you're new to an industry, spend 20 minutes a day learning something specific about that industry. And over time, that daily knowledge is going to add up. And it's all those small moments like answering a question in a meeting or helping a coworker. Those are wins. Even if they seem small, they really matter. So now, shift number four. Separate your identity from your performance. A lot of people take mistakes very personally, especially at work. Like it says something about who they are, but it doesn't. Making mistakes is actually part of the learning. It's how you're going to figure out what actually works. So don't be afraid of making mistakes. As long as you're honest about it and, follow through when you're trying to fix things. One final thought. And the part that a lot of people don't really go into depth or kind of tiptoe around. When you ask thoughtful questions, people don't automatically think you're dumb. They think, oh, wait, they're really thinking this through. They're thinking it through enough to ask this question. People are less judging your questions and more responding how you are responding to the situation, not necessarily your knowledge. Because at the end of the day, knowledge can be learned, but your approach, that's what stands out. And that's what will ultimately be judged. Now, these shifts won't instantly make you feel confident. It's not going to happen overnight. Much like many of my videos that I've done, I know you probably hate hearing that it's not going to happen overnight. But I promise over time it compounds. You probably won't even notice it happening. It's just going to happen. Like one day you'll realize you're speaking up more, you're understanding the room more, you're not overthinking it anymore. And then, oh, you look back and say, oh, shoot, like I feel good. If you take away just one thing from this video, just think of it this way. Everyone that you look up to was in your position at some point in time. Confidence didn't come naturally to them. They built it day by day, unless they're robots. But they built it, and you can too. So next time you feel dumb, just pause and ask yourself, if someone I cared about felt this way, like little sister, little brother, your son, your daughter, how would I respond to them? And give yourself that same level of patience. If this helped at all, subscribe. I'm going to keep sharing real ways to navigate work without shrinking yourself.